So the Book of Boba Fett episode 2 comes out tonight, and I think it's safe to say that anyone who watches my videos on a regular basis or follows me on Twitter knows my thoughts on the entirety of the Book of Boba Fett. I wasn't too excited going in, and then the trailers at the very end in the lead up to the show kind of got me hyped for the show. Episode 1 killed every single ounce of that hype that was left in me, and now I just don't even care about episode 2 at all, to be honest with you. It actually angered me how disappointing episode 1 was, to the point where I just really don't care about episode 2 that much. I'm not really looking forward to it. I'm definitely not going to stay up to watch it, and it seems like a lot of other people are echoing that sentiment. It seems like a lot of other people out there, critics and audiences, don't like the Book of Boba Fett episode 1, and it really disappointed a lot of people because of what the producers, of what Robert Rodriguez, Jon Favreau, and Dave Filoni have said about the show in the lead up to the show. They said, Robert Rodriguez, a quote from him directly, said the show is all killer, no filler. If that is what you consider all killer, no filler, then this show is in serious trouble, because I don't even know if you can call episode 1 of a show a filler episode, because it's the first episode. It's not really filling anything in. But it was a filler episode. It's just a filler episode as the first episode of a show. So in other words, a bad episode. You know, it wasn't good. I don't know how anyone can defend this episode, but a lot of people are saying that they enjoy the episode somehow. I honestly think that they're either one, lying to themselves and trying to like the Book of Boba Fett simply because it's Star Wars' last hope, simply because Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are the only hopes that Star Wars have left. But also, I think that people hold Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni shows, and, you know, just projects in general, I'm sure they do the same thing for their movies. I think they lower their standards so that they can like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni projects. I really think they're doing that. I think that if Rian Johnson or J.J. Abrams were to have created this show, this episode of the Book of Boba Fett, everyone will be trashing on it because it's a bad episode. But since Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni created it, they're out there praising it. They're out there defending it, saying, you know what, just wait for episode 2, just wait for episode 3. The show's going to pick up. I don't know if you know this, but this show is probably going to be 30 minutes per episode, and it's not even 8 episodes like The Mandalorian. I already had a problem with the short episodes from The Mandalorian, but it's not even going to be 8 episodes like The Mandalorian. I already had a problem with the 8 episode, 30-minute episode Mandalorian template. I think that's really stupid, and it's quite honestly a ripoff. But anyway, this show's not even going to be 8 episodes. It's going to be 30-minute episodes, only a 7-episode season. 1 episode already down where absolutely no new information was learned. No new information was gathered from that episode. Nothing happened. It was all flashbacks and just pointless action where people are trapping Boba Fett in with shields for some reason that we don't even understand. Anyway, episode 2 better bang or I'm completely out of this, because like I said, only 6 episodes left, only 30 minutes per episode. It's not looking too good. I'm not gonna lie to you. If that's what they call all killer no filler, it's not looking too good. Forbes agrees with me. There's a couple articles that I'm going to show you. Shout out to Echo Base Network. They put these articles in a video today as well. I'll definitely link their video in the description. They showed me these articles and I wanted to cover them for myself. The Book of Boba Fett has worse reviews than all Star Wars and Marvel shows so far. This is very interesting. I said this in my last video, but to see Forbes talk about it and put all the scores next to each other, it does just add a little bit more gravity to this whole situation. The Book of Boba Fett is so far reviewing less well than all the other Star Wars and Marvel Disney Plus series. Here's how it looks on Rotten Tomatoes. The Book of Boba Fett, 83% critics, 71% audience. The Mandalorian Season 1, 93% critic, 92% audience. And The Mandalorian Season 2, 94% critic, 90% audience. That's really the main one that I'm really comparing it to, because we all thought that this was going to be a step up, or at least I thought, I expected, and I know a lot of other people like Star Wars Theory and Josh from Den of Nerds also expected the Book of Boba Fett to be a step up from The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2. I think that it needed to be, because this is really what's showing Star Wars' future. This is really what's taking us into the future era, the new era of Star Wars. The Book of Boba Fett is leading us into stuff like the Bad Batch Season 2, which I don't care about at all, but a lot of people do for some reason care about the Bad Batch Season 2. It's leading us into Kenobi, into Andor, into the Mandalorian Season 3, into Ahsoka, and like I said, just the new era of Star Wars where it seems like, you know, they actually have a vision for it. Who knows if that's true or not? I don't know. There's a lot of little mistakes inside of the Book of Boba Fett that I'm not going to go into because this isn't a lore channel. But there's a lot of little mistakes inside of there that I'm just like, are they really paying attention to this show? Is this just another low effort cash grab by Star Wars, by Disney? I don't know. You know, the jury is still out, obviously. But The Mandalorian, in comparison to the Book of Boba Fett audience and critic scores, not looking good for the Book of Boba Fett at all. Let's check out some of the Marvel shows though. WandaVision, 91% critic, 88% audience. That's a show that I honestly will defend because I actually really enjoyed WandaVision, especially in comparison to the other MCU shows. I thought it was actually a pretty good show. I thought Loki was good up until the finale. The other 3 shows, not good at all in my opinion, but a lot of people out there did enjoy them. Anyway, if we're just comparing the scores to the Book of Boba Fett, Loki, 92% critic, 91% audience. Hawkeye, 92% critic, 90% audience. What If, 93% 94% critic, 92% audience, and Falcon and Winter Soldier 89% critic and 85% audience. Falcon and Winter Soldier being the lowest one, I think that show is absolutely awful, and it's still scoring way higher than the Book of Boba Fett, especially in the audience score. 89% critic to Boba Fett's 83% critic, and Boba Fett's 71% critic to the Falcon and Winter Soldier's 85% critic. That 71% audience score is what really matters to me, because obviously the audience is what truly matters. The critics don't really matter too much, but the fact that the critics are hating this Star Wars show as much as they are in comparison to The Mandalorian, which got a 94 and a 93 in the critics section, that's really bad. That's really, really bad for the Book of Boba Fett. And the fact that stuff as big as Forbes are writing about how bad the Book of Boba Fett is, that's really not, it's not looking good. You know, I really was disappointed by this first episode. As everyone knows, I was really disappointed by this first episode, to the point where it angered me, to the point where I'm just like, how are you going to continuously give us these 30-minute episodes in a very, very short season? It's not like The Bad Batch where there's 20 episodes in a season, or the Clone Wars where there's 25 episodes in a season. This is a 7 or 8 episode season, and we're getting 30 minutes per episode. Let something happen. Just something happen in the first episode. Like The Mandalorian season 1. I wasn't in love with that first episode. I thought it was a good introduction to a new character, to a stone cold killer. We didn't get too much character development in that episode at all. But what we did get was a big bang at the end with Baby Yoda showing up. Obviously, we didn't know his name was Grogu back then, but what we did get was a big bang and a huge reason for speculation going into the second week. And, you know, we wouldn't know it yet, but actually the next 2 years of Star Wars, huge speculation for the next 2 years of Star Wars. That's what that episode 1 of The Mandalorian gave us. There is nothing in the Book of Boba Fett that could possibly do that for us. And the Book of Boba Fett official Twitter account tweeted out something like, "Don't spoil the Book of Boba Fett," and everyone was replying, including myself, to what is there to spoil? There's nothing in there to spoil. With the first episode of The Mandalorian season 1, we were all trying to speculate and dance around this big elephant in the room that was Baby Yoda. It was a great time to be a Star Wars fan. It was so exciting that we could have the future of The Mandalorian alone, but also the future of Star Wars, where we could learn more about this Yoda species. We didn't know what was going to happen with that little Baby Yoda, but now we had the Book of Boba Fett that was just like flashback scenes to stuff that we already knew or assumed had happened to Boba Fett, and we just have nothing new to speculate on going into the second episode of Boba Fett. Hopefully this second episode gives us something, man, just something to grasp onto where we can hold on to hope for this season. But I don't know, man. It's not looking too good for me. I'm not too optimistic, I'll be honest with you. But Forbes also wrote this article right here: Boba Fett should have stayed in the Sarlacc pit. And it's pretty much just this guy, who's a writer for Forbes, just trashing all over the first episode of Book of Boba Fett. He was saying when Cobb Vanth first showed up, it seemed like it was going to be a fitting tribute to a character whose reputation eclipsed his role in the story. Of course, it didn't take long for Disney to resurrect Boba. The Mouse House doesn't like to leave fan favorites in the ground, even if their story has already been told. Well, Boba Fett had already been resurrected, I believe, before the Disney purchase, in a comic or in a book or something like that. So I don't think that was Disney kind of cash grabbing. I think this is Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni truly caring about the Book of Boba Fett, or truly caring about the Boba Fett character, or at least being very interested in the Boba Fett character and wanting to make that series since, you know, before The Mandalorian. I believe that Jon Favreau wanted to make The Mandalorian originally, Din Djarin. He wanted to make him Boba Fett, but wasn't allowed to for whatever reason. Ended up proving himself with The Mandalorian season 1 and 2, and now they get the Book of Boba Fett greenlit, which is what they wanted to do since the beginning. But Forbes is just trashing all over this show, man. That's 2 separate articles where they're just trashing the show. The first one is kind of just stating the facts, you know, just saying that the Book of Boba Fett is scoring very low in comparison to other Star Wars and Marvel TV shows on Disney+. But the second one saying that Boba Fett should have stayed in the Sarlacc pit. I honestly agree with you. I wish this show would have never happened. I've been saying that since it was announced. I was never looking forward to this show up until a couple of days before it came out, and I kind of just convinced myself that I was actually happy that this show was happening. But after seeing episode 1, I really wish it would have never happened. Let me know what you guys think, though. What are you thinking about the Book of Boba Fett? What do you think about Forbes trashing it? What do you think about the Rotten Tomatoes score, the IMDb score, all that stuff? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you did enjoy the video, though, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter, the links I have in the description as well. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.